Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4, and it's a very special one. This is the grand finals of the Agoge tournament hosted by HermesPrime. Spawning in on the northwest corner of the map, playing in blue, we've got Anotand representing Team My Insanity, playing as the Chinese. And his opponent in the southeast, playing in red, it's our beloved Corvinus1 playing as the Japanese. Welcome everyone to Prairie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Hopefully you're having a fantastic day, and we're seeing some great action today on a very interesting map, of course. A map which has very few wood lines and plenty of sheep. Now, we did actually see a second scout popping up for the Chinese. I wonder if Corvinus has done the same. Indeed, he has. Like, it's a map where you get plenty of sheep, you want a challenge for it. That's exactly what Corvinus is doing, as well as, of course, Anotand. Now, interestingly enough, a civilization pick here, the Chinese, will give them access to the Barbican of the Sun nice and early, and obviously look to be able to get some static defenses, which would be great. The Japanese are a really nice civilization on this map, I gotta say, because whilst you do have plenty of sheep coming in nice and early, one thing to consider is, maybe in sort of actually, to be fair, maybe a bit later than that, maybe 20-25 minutes into the game, you will need a farming transition. The great thing for the Japanese, with the Cura storehouse, that those farms come in for free. I gotta say, there's a lot of sheep coming in for the Japanese. We'll take a quick stock check. 7 there with the mill. Add in an 8th. Add in a 9th. That's not a lot of sheep for the Chinese. And this is what's going to really hurt him, right? Because look, this is a lot of sheep there. 13 already. And that's only what's been brought back home. There's another batch here. Crazy amount of sheep for Corvinus. A great start for the grand finals for him. And the reason why it's so important is because he is never going to have a hard transition, right? The Japanese, I think, probably arguably the best civilization in terms of the smoothness for transition onto food because of the Cura storehouse. And that transition will not be needed for a very long time anyway. Going to relocate the Cura storehouse a little bit further out. Where's it going? There it is. Okay. Placing it a little bit further out. One more tile, I think. Yeah, one more tile. I was going to go for... Ooh, might be looking to get a second town centre actually out of this. That's always a possibility. It'd be kind of a curious choice. You could be thinking about trying to match up against the Song Dynasty, which is typically what they play towards, right? The Chinese are a civilization at the moment where they have quite a lot of options, quite a flexible civilization. They always have been. They've often gone for like a Song Dynasty 2-town center play, but actually these days, the Chinese have been making their names for themselves for going for a castle age, staying in the Song Dynasty, and then look to challenge those relics and then add in town centers afterwards. We shall see, because I'd say there's got to be... I feel like there's definitely been a meta switch in that regard. In the most recent patch, I think the most recent DLC actually, it was really very much the new civilizations that brought this about, where civilizations go for a bit more of a greedier fast castle, and then add in town centers after their castle age, once they start contesting the relics. A couple of civilizations have really kind of championed that. Japanese certainly one of them. The Aibid's definitely one of them. And so I think a lot of civilizations are kind of following suit. And maybe the Chinese could be staying 1 TC. Now, I would like to say a very big thank you for everyone who's been supporting the channel, whether it be on Twitch or YouTube. You guys are absolute legends. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Been having some great growth on YouTube side of things, actually, by the way. So I really appreciate that. Casting daily on that channel. And I have been streaming live on Twitch these days as well. So if you're watching on the YouTube side of things and you want to see things live, come and say hello. I'll leave a link in the video description where you can find me. And a big shout out, by the way, for this grand final. The tournament, as we mentioned earlier, has been hosted by HermesPrime, who streams on Twitch these days as well. So it's worth checking out because he's got lots of things planned, actually. And so there's going to be plenty more tournaments. In fact, I think there's going to be a 2nd and a 3rd edition already for the Agoge tournament planned. Now, if you're wondering, what does Agoge mean? It's a good question. So you guys might remember the video. I hate to do this. I hate to do this. Right? I hate to bring it down to this, but you guys may remember the video or the movie 300. Now, Agoge, I was looking at Wikipedia, our favorite resource of learning things, and also mentioning, I did have a conversation with HermesPrime about it as well, and it was a process for the Greeks to actually look to build up their forces, their army, picking up the young and fit of the gentlefolk, the gentlemen, making them into warriors. And of course, we saw that in 300, right? For the Spartans. And so, henceforth, the name Agoge. Now, if you're Greek and you think I'm I'm brutalizing how I'm pronouncing it. I know, I'm trying, okay? I'm trying. It's not my native language. I do not speak Greek, but we're trying. Now, as things go, which is kind of interesting, the Japanese, the reason why they actually are one of the civilizations that can champion a castle age into a second town center afterwards, is because whilst they do mine gold, they also get some stone trickling in. So he's actually managed to get 70 gold. Sorry, 70 stone whilst mining the gold. Double outpost on that position definitely telegraphs that castle age play. Same though for the Chinese. So it will be that race to the castle age for both players. It does then raise the question, well, it's going to be a challenge for the relics, and of course this one in the north, very much in a good spot for Anotand, but as map spawns go, I think it's slightly favoured by Corvinus. There's not a lot in it, but the great thing for Corvinus is if he does go for the landmark, the Great Gatehouse, is it? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's the Great Gatehouse. Something like that. I've forgotten it. I haven't casted Age of Empires for in a couple of days and it's already slipped my mind. Either way, the landmark that gets the Shinto priests, they'll be out on the map very quickly. Bear in mind, Anotand with the Song Dynasty will have a slight villager lead and is going to go to the next stage with the Imperial Palace. Interesting choice. And I don't hate it, right? Because on a map where wood is kind of sparse, it makes it a bit tricky for siege play, right? You kind of want to get the mass units that are great for raiding, whether it be palace guards or lancers can even do a decent job. But siege is a bit tricky, right? So the value that you get from the astronomical clock tower is a little bit less on prairie than, say, you know, your standard dry Arabia or wood heavy maps. So he does go for the Imperial Palace and he'll be able to get that extra vision. Great vision, by the way. Well, might be able to snipe out the scout. One forced turn by Anotand, he will lose it. We'll take a look at the minimap. Look at the line of sight on the minimap for the Imperial. He sees so much. That's disgusting. That's insane. So when you think about raiding, it could be a little more tricky for the Japanese, right? Because Anotand will spot it. Ooh, one turn, and his scouts are awfully low on HP. Oh, it's the floating gate. That's what it's called for the Japanese. There we go. Having a senior moment. Looks like he's going to go for the Lancer play, right? Because he wants the movement on the field, the mobility. It makes a lot of sense. And the scouts are still being chased by Corvinus. He's going for it. The scouts do regenerate hit. Oh, he might lose it. He does lose it. One hit there. And that means one less scout to deal with for Corvinus. Corvinus gets to the castle stage now with the floating gate. And he might lose a Shinto priest. He doesn't quite manage to garrison inside it. He deposits the Yorishiro inside the town centre. It's going to make the villagers come out a lot quicker, 25% faster. Might lose another scout here, Anotand. Lots to look at. Managed to run away from that. The tricky is with the outpost with emplacements, because he does get stone, right? So whilst mining gold, he gets emplacements quite quickly, and it's going to be tricky to raid that gold vein. But it's something that's still looking to challenge as time goes on. Quite a few lancers actually, and this is a great timing for Anotand, right? He is diving quite a little bit, but he is causing idle time. In fact, more than half the economy for the Japanese is idle at this point, and he's getting some village kills, so this is a definitely nice play, and he's definitely made the tech up timing to his advantage work really well for him. Something that the Japanese have to try and find a way of dealing with. He does have the access to Onimusha though, so this is almost the perfect counter unit you can ask for. But you need more than one. And Japanese in this matchup, they're looking pretty good, right? There are 7 villages behind, but overall in the grand scheme of things, it won't necessarily mind too much as long as he starts to pick up some of those relics. So hard ass though with his lancers roaming around the field. And he garrisons inside their Corvinus. Got to be careful with these villagers. They can play a little bit of in and out with the villagers. But Lancer's wrapping around the woodline does get another kill, and this is the issue with Prairie, right? Everything's so exposed, and he might even get another villager kill. He should do. He does, and that's massive. Killed 5 so far. Great raiding. But slowly but surely, it should be the case that Corvinus should be able to build up the Onimusha numbers. And if we can do that, maybe we can find a way to stop the slaughtering. Maybe the Barbican of the Sun to protect his economy somewhat. Although, in fact, no, he's going to go for the Barbican. Going to go for the boar and the gold. the forward position. Well, it's a great start for both players in a way. Corvinus, of course, managed to get plenty of sheep, but the Chinese have brought themselves back into the game by killing quite a few villagers. Like at this point, Corvinus is 11 villages behind. And that'll continue to grow unless he looks to get a second town centre. So Anotand by no means out of this. In fact, if the game continues the current trajectory, Corvinus has got an uphill battle. He's got to do some damage now. He's got to pick up relics. He's got to get some map control. And he's got to get pumping. Market come down for Anotand just to rebalance that economy somewhat. It is somewhat out of kilter, but he'll balance it well with the market, of course. And he's now looking to get that monastery to pick up some relics. It looks like he's got 4 imperial officials as well. So really maximizing the bonus that the Chinese get with that unit. Alright, Onomusha just guarding the Shinto priest to pick up those relics. But Onomusha going around the north, and I wonder whether Anotand might hunker down a little bit, right? He must know he's ahead in terms of village count. So it's going to be really about not suffering too many losses from raids. And then maybe move out from there. And 237 stone in the bank for the Japanese could potentially offer a second town centre relatively soon. Now, whilst Anotand is in a good spot in terms of eco advantage numbers, don't forget he will need a farming transition before too long, and that could be a very big hit on the economy and the miniature production. So Corvinus has a window of opportunity to do some damage. Looking to snipe out an Imperial official, doesn't quite manage it, almost though. Quite close. He's adding in a stable as well. Could potentially see some mounted samurai out for the Japanese. That's exactly what's going to happen. So it's going to go for that really kind of heavy food gold composition on the Musha and the mounted samurai. Anotand slowly working on those blacksmith upgrades, looking to get a couple of crossbows. So it looks like maybe horsemen and crossbows as the army composition for Corvinus. Sorry, for Anotand rather. It's quite a nice one actually. Horsemen will give them mobility. Crossbows will do great against both actually, in fact, the mounted samurai and the Onimusha. More so the mounted samurai, but the issue is the mounted samurai being able to negate that first attack. That little white bar on top of the health bar for the Japanese is a kind of like a shield actually. It negates the first attack. So it allows the samurai to gap close quite heavily. And if they get on top of the crossbows, it can be a really big problem for the Chinese. You will need a bit of a meat shield, and that's where the horsemen come into play. Anotand though is super exposed on the west side. Picks up and deposits the first of the relics, and that Imperial official is keeping an eye on things, right? He's got good vision. I actually love the play for the Imperial Palace because we talk about the lack of wood and the lack of value that maybe that the astronomical clock tower can give, but also the fact that actually the vision means that it can probably save palisade walls. He probably doesn't need them as much as he might need to. You have to keep close eye on that mini-map though. Can't be playing with fire. Because you should have the vision. Gonna dive in with the horseman. That's a good number of mounted samurai though, tanking on in, and the trouble is, without having walls, sure, you'll see what's happening, but that doesn't mean you can necessarily stop it. Good number of crossbows, pushing away the Onimusha for now. Going to relocate that mining camp. That's going to push the army away. He's floating quite a bit of wood and gold here, actually, Anotand. He's struggling with food, right? This is the thing. He's going to need that farming transition soon. Corvinus' balance of economy is just a little bit better. That's because of the farms. And a constant supply of sheep. This is actually a really hard match for Anotand. We can talk all about the civilization matchups and the map as much as we want, but there's a sheer number of sheep that Corvinus managed to get early on. It changes the dynamics a lot, or at least it makes it, timing-wise, a lot trickier for Anotand because look at that, he's still got so many sheep here. Corvinus just cycling around the right side, and he did add in a second town center, by the way, just a little bit further on the left on the berries and the gold. So we'll be looking to catch up a little bit on the village account. It'll take some time to get there though, because the Song Dynasty of course is in play for the Chinese. Good number of honor Agoge adding into the fight. And this is where things could be a little bit tricky for the Chinese, right? And Anotand has got to be careful about his ranged units, because if they do get surrounded, it could become a problem, right? The ranged units will be good at dealing with the honor Agoge, but they are really fast on their feet, and these ladies are going to try and chop those crossbows to pieces. And there's a good number of mounted samurai charging on in as well. Not too much of a meat shield for Anotand, but he should be safe. Just the sheer number of crossbows should be able to stand and fight, and it looks like in the end Corvinus might lose most of the army here, but he's trading a little bit. Here comes some palace guards. They could be a great raiding unit for the Chinese potentially here. And Corvinus losing a lot in that fight. That was a bit of a rough one for him. There's two principles to think about when you take a fight like that. It can be to achieve two purposes. One is to actually win the fight. Another is to buy yourself some time. Maybe Corvinus was opting for the second, because he need to buy some time for the second town center. I mean, this could go down. The second town center, a very exposed area, and it's very low on HP, right? 2,500 HP. It's not a lot in the grand scheme of things. Does have the Yorishiro inside the barracks. Also looking to get Siege Workshop, maybe for a Mangonel. Anotand though, he's pumping out units, and despite food becoming a bit of an issue, I think this is actually really smart. I think I've twigged it. I think he's using the market to buy food. I think that's the reason for the gold income. Like, we say his economy's out of balance, but actually, he's actually playing this big brain. Like, realistically, when you think about players having this amount of gold income, players of Anotand's quality don't do that by accident. That's not an accident. He's mining gold and he's buying food. It's got to be. And that's such a big brain play, right? Because food is a tricky situation. And he doesn't want that farming transition. So I guess in his mind, he wants to play for the timing here. He wants to trade in the gold. I mean, overall, if you do trade in gold too much, it will be an unfavorable price. I'm not sure, actually. He's not trading anything now. Yeah, there it is. He just did it now, didn't he? I could have sworn he did it just now. And that's kind of interesting, right? Because he's making the use of the Imperial Supervision. And what this does, it delays the farming transition. And he needs to do it enough to get a critical mass, like a good standing army, and then go for it. Because if you think about it, if he did the farming transition 10 minutes ago, he probably would have been dead in the water. That's a fascinating strategy there for Anotand, and it's working well so far. Eventually, though, he will need to transition. It's not a long-term solution, but it is a short-term solution to a longer-term problem. If you can get that farming transition eventually, with the standing army he's got now, it'd be a lot safer to do it now than he was 10 minutes ago. A really interesting play there by Anotand. Corvinus with the rub of the green in terms of the relics, picked up 3 so far, was looking to get the sacred sites, but it is being contested. And of course, Corvinus losing that town centre means it's back to just one town centre versus Song Dynasty again. So a very expensive loss when you think about it. 400 wood, 350 stone, 750 resources. It's a big deal. Yeah, this is definitely the play, right? He's actually big braining us here, Anotand. We found his little secret on Prairie. He's getting a lot of gold. He can afford more than just a little house on the Prairie. He can afford a mansion on the Prairie these days. And now he's starting to get the walls up. Now with the map being carved up by him, I mean, surely he's going to think about farming transition soon, right? I mean, if he wins this game without a single farm, that is big brain. I kind of want to see it. I'm not going to lie. It's great grand finals here so far already. Hope you guys have been enjoying it. And by the way, if you are watching on YouTube, I need a cheeky favor, right? Drop down in the comment section below your favorite emoji. It really helps me out on the YouTube algorithm side of things, the engagement. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I've asked it for a couple of times in the videos before, and it's actually worked out pretty well. I found out a lot of new viewers actually end up watching, or at least the videos get pushed out to newer viewers. It grows the community really well, so I appreciate you guys for doing that. A double mangonel though for the Japanese will make it a little bit tricky for the Chinese to push on out, and bear in mind the game now heading towards the 30-minute mark almost. That stage of the game means that things do start to favour where the Chinese become strong, right, late game. He's actually got all 3 sacred sites. Could potentially think about sacred site victory actually. And that could be smart because he doesn't need farms for the next 10 minutes, does he? Maybe he does. There we go. Starts to add in the granary. And Anotand has really made use of the bad start he got, right? Really lacked the sheep. But he's playing with what he had and what he's been dealt. On Agoge, they're going to get a couple of raids here on the right side, maybe move his way through. The tricky part is the timing of the farming transition is at a time where he's putting some pressure on the sacred side victory win condition, right? And so I suspect Corvinus will move out pretty soon. Well, he kind of has to move out pretty soon, right? He's got to move out within the next 8 minutes for sure. Will the Chinese be prepared for that? But the great thing for him is he's got plenty of villagers, and you've got to feel that the longer the game goes, the Chinese are actually in a really good spot. Great economy behind this. In fact, let's take a look at the income. It's pretty decent in terms of food, in terms of wood and food and gold rather. Obviously, food has been struggling a little bit, but that's starting to climb up a little bit, and they're getting a defensive keep. Yeah, we're definitely going to see the game go late, and you'd love to see it on a map like Prairie. But certainly, I think this is definitely like a good educational point of view if you're thinking about if you're playing Age of Empires and maybe you're in the diamond level or below maybe. The way that Anotand has navigated the lack of sheep has been great. Not afraid to use the market, but then also still look to gear towards getting that late game set up with the farms slowly but surely. Because if he did place those farms maybe 20 minutes earlier, or 10 minutes rather, 10 minutes earlier, it would have been a pretty sticky situation. Couple of springles. That's a good number of springles though for the Chinese. Should take a good fight. Maybe take out a couple of mangonels. If you can take the mangonels out, he'd be feeling a lot better about the fight. But there's a lot of obligation in this fight. Mangonels potentially could deploy here for the Japanese, and Corvinus hasn't deployed just yet. Loses the springles, and this is going to be an issue. Mangonels will deploy mostly on palace guards though, so he doesn't lose too much in terms of HP. The springle's not focusing on. Okay, takes that springle now just as well. Nesta B's out for the Chinese. This should actually be a decent fight for Anotand. I mean, Corvinus does have a lot of obligation. There's Nesta Bees, there's a good number of crossbows, and there's a good number of palace guards tanking. But those mangonels still there, and that's a problem. The mangonels can do a lot of damage if they get on top of the crossbows. He's pushing on in here, and mangonels could be the difference maker. Palace guards coming off on the right side. Great play there by Corvinus to read that. He tried to sneak in the palace guards on the right side to get on top of those mangonels. Didn't quite manage it. Nesta Bee is still firing off and working wonders. It looks like Anotand should be able to hold this position, but really all that Corvinus needs to do is decap the sacred sites. Nesta B's focusing on the springald more than anything. Gonna take the fight. Good mangonel shot. Does get a lot of damage on those crossbows. Nesta B's fires off, takes out the springald, takes out a mangonel. On Agoge, they're surrounded. Gets another mangonel shot on the crossbows. Trying to get the maximum value. Does lose a mangonel at the end, but some good shots nonetheless. On Agoge getting right on top of the crossbows, which is exactly where they want to be. Palace guards come around the back, take them down, and all of a sudden, Corvinus is on the back foot. Now, how's he bought himself enough time to get a keep? Not just yet. It's got 750 stone. Can't quite afford it, but he'll get there soon. Bear in mind, he never actually decapped the sacred site, which is actually a big problem now because now time has gone down to 5.5 minutes. Corvinus is behind an economy, behind a military. And Anotand has played this really well. But one thing you got to do is never count out a player like Corvinus. He's the type of player that can often find solutions to rough situations, and it does feel like the situations it has been a bit rough for the last 5 minutes. Trying to make a move for the north, and there's an outpost. They're giving the extra vision, but there's only palisades holding him out. So I wonder if Anotand will move on out once he sees the army there. The great thing about the Japanese, by the way, they do pump out units very quickly. Because of the Yorishiro, being able to spam out units is very nice for them. Palascars getting kind of chopped through these Onabikesha pretty quickly, although there is a Mangonel involved. Misses everything, but that was a weird shot by the Mangonel, I've got to say. Can try and break through on the north side. Should be able to break on through. Palisades go down. STB shots, pretty decent, but needs to get on top of that Seiko site if he can. Keep placed in the north. Great play there by Anotand to try and keep that, but he's going to lose those villages if he's not too careful. In fact, the Onabikesha are chasing. He's just got to buy time to get the army there. The army is in position though for Anotand, and so he should be able to get the keep up in the end. And looks like Corvinus has got to play for another Seiko site position. 3 keeps everywhere, and this is the great powerhouse of the Chinese economy, right? Being able to afford 3 keeps like this is absolutely huge, and farms continue to be placed down. He's setting himself up really nicely for that late game. Only 3.5 minutes on the Seiko site timer. Corvinus has to come up with a big plan soon. It's probably this Seiko site that's the least guarded. Still going to be a hard ask. A tricky ask. Gotta just backing away. And he's going to try and keep as many of these safe as possible. The Palascars are chasing, but the Onabikesha do have that faster movement speed. Although if they group together with the bannerman, that will limit the speed a little bit. 1.38. Palascars matching. And that key placement is going to get him out of this pickle. Only 2 Onabikesha remaining. Down on the front, he's starting to take the... Is that Trebuchet? Yeah, just the 1 Trebuchet for now. Start to work on the keep. Can get out for the middle Seiko site, it seems. Not long to go. 2.5 minutes. 2 trebuchets. Looks like he might be thinking about the Imperial Age, and that would be a smart move to get the Great Wall Gatehouse here. It'd be almost impossible to break on through. Only 2 minutes left on the clock. It could come down to one big push down the middle. So Anotand's getting ready for it. 16 villagers coming out to build that. That should go up pretty quickly, but it should go up in time, actually. And once it does, this middle sacred site will be really well secured. He's repairing. He's buying time, right? That's what he needs to do. 1.5 minutes on the clock. And there it is. He taps out Corvinus. He just couldn't find the time to get onto the sacred sites. And we do have your grand champion. It will be Anotand winning the first ever Agoge tournament. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. And if you did and you're watching on YouTube, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Take care and see you next time.